Okay, so this is not a technical talk. This is a little bit on the process side, software engineering side. So this is a topic suggested, and you can interrupt me at any moment of time. And feature toggle is just one name. There are so many names: feature switches, feature flips. So many names you can, and all means the same. So if any of you have any idea or any of you have used it, if you can start explaining, or if you have heard about it. Anyone?
For A/B testing, for gradual canary release.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So I've seen I've never used it, but in this app called Skylight.io, which does rates performance. So for some of the users, they send out this email saying, open the console and run this command, and this new feature will be enabled for you only. So I guess that's an example.
Yeah. Somewhat similar to the A/B testing example. Anyone else? Anyone has tried feature testing, feature toggles in production?
Yeah.
Okay.
There are multiple kinds of feature toggles, right? One is business feature toggle, one is for half-done development work, the other style is A/B testing, one is for tech tests.
Yeah. So simply feature toggle is using certain settings, enable or disable certain features. It can be either in an environment or it can be for certain users. So environment can be like you wanted certain things in your test or staging environment. You don't want that in production because you are still testing and you are not sure whether it's ready for production. Something like user acceptance testing and stuff like that. Or it can be you wanted to see how users use it. You want to do it with a certain set of users, and that is the A/B testing. And there are other cases where if for example, sometime back GitHub had a downtime. So during those downtimes, it's when the resources are getting overloaded in the system. Some applications, what they do is that they turn off certain high resource intensive features so that they can serve the other users better. So that's also a kind of a situation. So you might have seen Facebook and Google doing it all the time. All of a sudden something changes, and then after some time it will return back to the old one. So those are all part of feature toggling. Okay, so this is a key concept in continuous delivery. If you want to, so I'm not talking about the continuous delivery version. That's a long topic, but I'll touch upon multiple parts of continuous delivery throughout this talk, because to get this is, and if you want continuous delivery, if you want to have frequent pushes to production without feature toggles, it might be harder. So this is the baseline of if you want to move to a very frequent deployment cycles. Okay, so among so many other things. So, but this is a good start. I would recommend. Okay, so so before we jump on to feature toggles, the topic was feature toggles and continuous integration. So let's read the definition of a continuous integration. Spend a minute and read it, and then let's understand it better, and especially give focus to the words I've underlined. So there are 2 or 3 things underlined. One is merging, another one is mainline. Okay, so how many of you are familiar with feature branching? Okay, and how many of you do continuous integration? Almost everyone. Okay, so how many of you do continuous integration in this style?
What?
That is, you merge your code at least once in a day to the mainline. Okay, so this is don't call it as continuous. This is not my statement. Don't call it as you are doing continuous integration if you are not doing this. Okay, so merge at least once in a day. Doesn't matter what is the size of the team. Okay, even if it is 1 person, 2 person, doesn't matter. Do it multiple times. If you can do multiple times a day, that's even better. The idea is to have frequent feedback, saying that knowing that okay, there are no merge issues or there are no issues with whatever we have done is not breaking anything else. As early as even going into the production. I mean, if you can go to production as early as possible, get feedback from them. Okay. So, and so before we move on, I spoke a couple of questions, but how many of you actually do multiple commits to the mainline branch in a day? Multiple commits, at least one. Okay. What is the usual frequency? Once in 2 days or once in a week?
Twice or thrice, twice a day.
Okay.
Yeah, development mode probably not in production.
Yeah, mainline is what I'm saying. I'm talking about only one branch.
Yeah.
How many of you commit to mainline at least once in a day? Good if it is multiple times a day.
It's always smaller commits. So multiple times.
Okay, that's good. What is the problem of not committing it? Why is it written like that? Any idea why is it written like that in the continuous integration? When we saw the explanation, it is said merging mainline several times a day. That is what is actually continuous integration. That means every time you commit, you should it should trigger the continuous integration build and then tell you, okay, is it a success or a failure? Okay, any idea why is that?
Because you don't want to do every changes at once.
Big changes, chunks. We don't want to push huge changes.
Yes. So
Immediate feedback.
yeah, immediate feedback.
Even in the context of many people doing many commits a day, you still want the ability to track a broken commit at a commit level. You don't want to have 20 commits and find out which of them broke the thing.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that usually we spend a lot of time in merge health. Merging, if that's a common thing when you have branches. Okay, you are working in an isolation. After a day, you realize, okay, it's time for us to merge it. Go back and merge it. Dim. Everything is broken. Then you spend your creative time in actually fixing those merge issues. So why should we wait until then? Okay, why should we wait? So someone mentioned the commits are in small chunks. That's a fantastic way of doing it. Take things in a very small things and commit as frequently as possible and see, okay, I'm not breaking anything, okay, I can move forward. Okay, so that's the idea of mainline development. So this is against the feature branching, but then the question arises, if you are building a feature which you may not be able to do it in 1 or 2 commits, right? It may span days or it may even span weeks. Or it can be like introducing you are moving away from one kind of implementation to another kind of, you are doing a major refactoring that may take a longer time. How do you do that? That is when feature toggles come into picture. Okay, or even it can be like you are starting with a feature, but it may take time for you to build it. But you might need some early feedback from certain stakeholders or certain early users. But you want to push that and see, okay, what is happening, and is this the way to go forward? That is a perfect time for introducing feature toggles. Okay, so for feature toggles and mainline development going together, and one way to implement mainline is through feature toggles. Okay, so any questions so far? Okay. So when you talk about merge health, this is a typical diagram that you might have seen. So this is again from Martin Fowler's article. 2 people are committing. You can imagine the situation after a week when they are trying to, after a week, so many days when they are trying to merge it. Okay, even to the extent you might both people might be writing the same kind of code because you are not talking to each other. You will not know what is happening. So those kind of things has to be completely avoided. Write as much as only required. Okay, don't write extra code, and then try to merge it as frequently as possible, because things can go wrong at any moment of time. That all of us who has been in the industry knows that, okay, things can go wrong at any moment of time. Okay, so so this is one thing that needs to be avoided. Usually, I've seen teams spending a tremendous amount of creative time on fixing the merge health. Okay, and if you don't want to do that again, then move to a mainline, start using feature toggles. Okay, so this is one advantage. Another thing is, say you push something, you know, okay, it's not working as expected, you want to roll back. Usually you roll back the commit. Instead of that, if you have feature toggles, you can roll back the feature. So you can release experimental features and then roll it back when you think, okay, it's not working, okay, just change the flag and commit. So you are always moving forward. It's like ratchet. You are never going back. Okay, and that's another way to way for this thing we have done so many times. Facebook usually does that. There is something called as dark launching that was very popularized by if you search for dark launching, Facebook usually has done it a lot. So dark launching is that even before you implement certain things, they deploy that without even showing it to the user. So for example, chat is something that they have done like that. So they didn't release the actual chat window, but they set up the entire chat ecosystem, like because it's an XMPP and it is a lot of polling and other things. They wanted to see how the infrastructure responds to that. So they did a dark launch and then they see how the system performs. So rather than implementing the entire feature and seeing, okay, the architecture is not going to work, you can do these kind of experiments, see how the system works and change your architecture accordingly. Okay, so that's another way to use, but that will happen usually when you have a lot of scale. But if you want quick feedback, then use this for quick experiments. Okay, so this is a very good quote that is again taken from the book Continuous Delivery. This goes well with TDD also. So usually when something is painful, why we don't merge? Because we know it's painful. Okay, then we procrastinate, we'll delay it, then we pay, we have more pain. Why to do that? If something is painful, do it more often. The same goes with TDD. Testing is hard. That's the reason you are testing early enough. But once you get into that level of rhythm, then I think you don't feel that pain at all, because things are set. You know exactly what to do. You can reduce the pain a lot rather than taking a pain at the very end. So this is you can think of this as one way to use mainline plus feature toggles. Okay. Okay, so all theory. Let's see how can you do that. In Rails world, it's very simple. Especially Rails provides a lot of environment files, so you can turn it on there. Usually that is in my experience. The usual requirement is to turn on certain features in certain environments. You want it in development, but don't want it in production. Then Rails provides you the configuration file. You can do that, or you can write a YAML file to say, okay, this is on in this environment, this is off in this environment. So that's the simplest way. But there are gems, like if you want to take it to the A/B testing level or any other level, then this is a very popular gem. It's called Rollout. It uses configurations plus database, so a lot of things it provides. So I have not tried that by myself, but I have been hearing a lot of good comments from the community about it. Okay, so my requirements usually has been very small, so we have always been using configuration file by ourselves, because we didn't want to overload, like what the previous speaker mentioned. Don't use gem unnecessarily. When you need it, then only use it. So I didn't see any reason for using it, but if you can check this out and see the kind of features that it provides, and so that you can think of how can we use feature toggles for many kind of testing. Okay, so and rollout takes care of all these kinds of feature toggles. That is, one is the release toggles. That's what we spoke about. Like, we don't want certain features to be released. We want it in development or in a testing environment. That is release toggle. we can for A/B testing or say certain users, if you want to expose it, then it's an experimental toggle. Then the ops toggles that we spoke about where we want to turn on, turn off depending upon the load on the system or certain availability of certain services. So that's also can be all this can be done by USL, or you can use something like rollout for achieving this. Okay, so so before we move forward, any questions anyone has?
What is ops toggles?
Ops toggles are usually for enabling certain features at certain time. Like the example I gave was when you have lot of load, say you got an unexpected load and then you wanted to turn off certain features which are very resource intensive. So that at that point of time you can do another deployment by turning off that particular feature. Okay, so that's what ops toggles is. So this particular article recently it came out in Martin Fowler's blog. Read that, it talks about various options that feature toggles allow you to do. Okay, and then how should you do it, and what kind of things you can achieve by feature toggles. Okay, and these terminologies are from that particular article. It talks about a lot of things, but these are the things I just took. Okay, so and now about I would like to say show you some good numbers or say case studies about where they have used feature toggles or the continuous delivery in detail. So this continuous delivery as a concept came out from Flickr even very early. So they used to do 10 deployments a day at even 8-9 years back, and then they carried over the same thing to InView. So this is that if you look at 10 deployments a day, you can see a lot of videos talking about as early as 5-8 years back. They are talking about how did they do that. Okay, so like I mentioned, feature toggle and mainline development is one way, is the base for that. There are quite a few other things that you have to do to achieve these kind of faster deployments, automation and complete automated testing. Automation of deployment and automated testing. Without that, I don't think you will be able to achieve it. But even for that, if you want the continuous integration to run for all your changes, then every commit has to be in the mainline. It cannot be sitting in different branches. So, so this is what Flickr used to do, and one of the key things you can see is the feature flags that they've clearly mentioned at when they were doing this. Any idea whose statistics is this? They used to deploy, one company deploys to production in every 11 seconds.
Is it Amazon?
Yeah. This is quite little old, maybe they are deploying much faster now. So this is the kind of things that they do. I mean, every 12 seconds, once in every 12 seconds, there is an update in the site. So it is very minimal, and then you don't have that pain of rolling back or changing anything if the items are so small. It is not just because they have a huge team. I don't think so. It is because of the kind of process that they are following.
They have this microservices based architecture. So it seems, so one of the person from Amazon came and spoke to us on the AWS conference. So he was explaining that how they use continuous integration.
Yeah.
So
but even before microservices as a concept came out, they were very famous for this. Even without that, I think.
So now they've put it into that AWS code deploy.
Yeah. Now so many tools are available, but Amazon has been, and Flickr and companies like that has been doing it for a prolonged period of time. So this is from Amazon, and this is from Google. Their statistics is in every the commit to production is 8 minutes. The moment you commit anything, within 8 minutes it goes to production. So Google is famous for their I don't know how many of you know, they have a monolithic code base. Except Android and maybe a couple of other things, everything is in one code base, and anyone can commit to that. Anyone can overwrite others' thing. So so they follow mainline, and but they do have a very structured code review process. They don't follow pairing, but that is also within this 8 minutes. So
generally that is frowned upon, right? Now they're from that monolithic architecture is like.
no, architecture is a microservice. I'm not talking about architecture. I'm talking about the code base. Everything is in single code base.
Okay.
Gmail, YouTube, I think except Android and maybe 1 or 2 other things, everything is in single code base. And everyone has access to that, and anyone can commit anything, anyone can make any changes. But they have a very structured testing. Huh? Mainline.
But they don't use purpose, they don't use Git actually.
Yes. They use Perforce.
They don't really have the feature facility that you provide.
Yeah, but Perforce is mainly because they have a monolithic code base. I think for performance, Git, if it is a very monolithic thing, it might take a lot of time to come. Facebook recently moved to that. Facebook is also following the monolithic code base now. They are putting everything in one code base, and they are almost all these companies. Even in Facebook, it is. So this is. So you can watch this particular YouTube link. I share the slide share. It talks about very interesting testing, kind of automated testing that they do at Google. So and this is Facebook's details. As the team and the LOC increases, their commits also increase, and then that gets pushed. But they, I don't think, I'm not very sure about whether every commit goes to production at point of time. As far as I know, they have a daily deployment. So once in a day, every commit goes. But they have, as far as I remember, they have database Fridays. Their database migrations will go only on Fridays.
But see, all these three companies they have more margin of error than say the project we do for like a banking company. Something goes wrong here and there in Facebook and doesn't matter, but we have to be.
But does
all
that?
These cases are very different from what Facebook.
That's okay. But what I'm saying is that.
Accuracy is much less.
Yeah, but does that is I'm not saying some other process are wrong. I'm saying this is the kind of things that you can do achieve that. Okay, so I can't just say okay everywhere it works, because without knowing that it will not be right for me to say that. But the point I'm trying to say is that if the margin of errors are more, then you need more controls within you to make sure that the moment you have an error, you should be able to roll back, right? And even these companies, they have a good way of rolling back. Okay, we hardly see any kind of a downtime, because they have a very good systems for making sure that they even have good systems to say okay what happens. HC for example, the moment you push something, it starts showing certain major metrics. And then if there is a slight dip in that, then they will roll back, because that means something has gone wrong.
So is the rollback also automated, or is it a manual?
That depends. I think some companies have very good systems of automated rollback. The moment certain metrics dips, it will roll back that too. Okay. So so the point is that you should be open to other ideas and then see whether is it better than the current one. Especially start with a problem. If you are struggling with deployments, then that's time for you to stop and listen to that. Okay. So okay, but all this on one side, it can become a lot complicated. So this is exactly this is what happened in our projects. We had a lot of feature toggles. Usually feature toggles has to be short living, especially the release toggles. The moment it goes to production, you should remove it off. Otherwise, because you have to check if this is turned on, do this, otherwise do this, then it introduces if else. So if you have too many feature toggles, then it's a problem. Feature toggles has to be short living, unless it is a ops related thing. That also you have to make it very minimal. Okay, so I can show you some code. especially these areas. So many ifs it got added. And we even moved to a spreadsheet to maintain feature toggles. That was horrible situation. So, but that will happen if you are not being careful about how long that feature toggle is. Sometimes we just push it by turning it on. Instead of that, we should remove that toggle and remove the if else and then push it. So, if you are not very careful about that, this can happen, especially if you have a lot of teams, everyone adds a lot of team members, everyone adds feature toggle, and if you are not being careful, this can happen.
So whether that removal is a part of the process somewhere, because removing a feature toggle is again code change that requires a commit.
Yes.
So where does that sit in the process? Because I can imagine if you do a lot of this, the code base will be littered with.
Yes. That comes with practice. That comes with a kind of a so when you are talking about so this is like TDD, right? I mean, how do you always make sure that you are writing the test first before committing the code, right? Initially there has to be some kind of a monitoring process to make sure that it happens. Then you can also check these kind of things will easily catch up by any code complexity tool. We use code climate. The moment you see this, it will complain. Okay, this place is horrible. So that gives you the feedback because complexity increases.
So after deployment, there is another commit to remove the toggle.
Yeah. It can go as part of the next push, or it can go as a simple push asset. Okay, so this is one thing that you have to be very careful. But if you are practicing it, I think it will come out. But if you are very new people, then we are not very monitoring that. If you are not being very careful, this can happen. This doesn't happen all the time. This example that I am showing you is something that happened 3-4 years back. So now I think after a lot of practice, we have become little more aware of this. But this is a problem, I agree that. But tools like code complexity tools and other things will help you to tell you if you are.
No, but if we have to be careful about such a thing, we might as well be careful about doing the merges. No? Let the feature branch be long and spend a day doing the merge.
Why you want to spend a lot of time in that? I mean, what I'm saying is that.
Spending a lot of time in this.
No, you don't have to spend a lot of time in this. You don't have to spend any lot of time in this.
Merging has to be manual. Automated is for each feature, for example, you need the date for the feature, then you compare the current date and see for how long it has been. It's easy to automate this check. Rather than automate.
Merges.
The feedback to future. So with feature branch, you won't get the feedback because you can't have the CAE pipeline for that. But because like you'll be having the master, you'll be connected to the CAE pipeline. So whenever you push to master branch, we'll get a feedback.
Yeah, but that becomes a little bit of overhead, right? I mean, the thing is that does the which
review happens on the feature branch. Like it happens in open source.
we'll come back to the open source bit. So the thing is that which is the latest code? Is the feature branch the latest? If there are three people, right? All of them have 3 branches. Which is the latest code? Is the feature branch or the mainline? That's a question that there is no integration happening. Then so the continuous integration is happening on all different branches, but at no point you can say that okay, this particular thing works well. That is the thing why we are emphasizing on the mainline, because you are sure if I have to push something, I am certain that okay, it works. I don't have to think for a minute. So these kind of things I am telling you, everything has a con. If you are not being careful, this can happen, and that's I'm telling from my experience. But happening that because of that, I'm not telling you okay, don't do it. Okay, everything has, even TDD has a downside, right? I mean, at times it takes more time, right? Or say you may skip certain tests because you don't know how to write tests. Those kind of things happen. Everything has pros and cons, right? So. At any moment of time, there should be a certain branch which says that okay, this is the current application and this is how it works. Okay, so we'll come back to the open source model. Okay, there have you heard of this term cathedral versus bazaar? So there I completely agree, because it is a so that's a good point. I didn't cover that. So the usual practice is that don't add and remove in the same commit. So you push the add or an update, and then wait for say how much ever you want, maybe a week or so, which gives you enough confidence. Okay, this is indeed a change. Then do that. Then remove the code. Okay, so that's a standard practice. Now Chad Fowler has been talking about a kind of a deployment where if you are very disciplined about microservices and other things, he talks about a case where immutable infrastructure, that is every commit, every push, you do it in a new environment, including the database. Okay, so if you search for immutable infrastructure, you can see a lot of talk from Chad Fowler. They have been successfully doing that in Wunderlist. Okay, across, but their systems are so small, so it doesn't take much time for it to boot it and set up the database and bring it back to the current state. So what he mentions in most of the talk is that once they deploy, they remove the key for the server, so that no one can enter into the server and make any changes. But it can happen. That's a very I've not tried that by myself, but that is the extent that you can take. That way there is no question about migration. Every time it is a new thing. So so how much scale it has done, where all, I've been hearing about it multiple times, but that kind of thing I'm not sure. But if you are really following this way, don't delete other same thing, because I think rollback as such will be a problem.
Deleting code or
Database. Keep it there and then maintain both for some time. So there is a concept called branch by abstraction, that if you have a very long running refactoring, say very hypothetical situation that you want to move from one ORM layer to another ORM layer, or you want to move from say Elasticsearch to something else. Okay, but your code will be scattered around multiple places where it is using Elasticsearch. So rather than waiting for it to actually complete every refactoring and push to production, what you can do is you create an abstraction layer, okay, and remove one by one to the new one. That way you can continuously deploy and see. So you have to maintain both the systems for some time, make it sync all the time. But that's a short term thing. You may not have to do it for a prolonged period of time. Then over a period of time, then you move it. In case something doesn't work, then you always have the option to go back. So that's a thing. Yeah, with minimal effort, because the moment anything goes down in production, all of us are under tremendous stress. So if you don't know exactly what to do, right, then there is high probability that we'll create more problems than what it is now. So this level of systematic processes doesn't leave it to the human, right? I think you do always the same thing. There is nothing different.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the abstraction layer that you're saying? Like how do you?
So for example, if you want to say move away from
like if you're switching technology,
yeah, so
migrating certain modules of your
yeah. So say you have module A and module B, both uses Elasticsearch. Okay, and then you want to move it away from Elasticsearch to say something else, or you were using Solar, you want to move to Elasticsearch. So what you can do is you can start a big refactoring where you can say, okay, module first finish module A, but don't commit, because it's still after this you don't have any Solar anymore, you have Elasticsearch only. Right.
So remove that dependency, or do you add both and then?
So what we can do is we can extract out that dependency, create it as an abstraction. Okay, and then what you can do is first move module A to Elasticsearch and deploy. But when you deploy, you need both Solar and Elasticsearch. because in this particular deployment you have both. And the next one, then if you watch out that for some time, and then see okay things are working fine. Then you in the next one you deploy the other module. Then both are in Elasticsearch, but still don't stop, because you have to make careful. In case something goes wrong, your Solar should be able to replace Elasticsearch quickly. Then maybe after in the next deployment you remove it completely. Okay.
So this we are able to do because we are using two different technologies. But what if we are doing an upgrade? So let's say a Ruby upgrade or something of that sort, a major Ruby or Rails upgrade. In that case, it will be throughout, right? So
Rails upgrades usually have if you are doing the minor upgrades, I think it usually comes up with some kind of a tool to actually change everything.
So the problem will be in a major upgrade, right? Because all your modules will be affected. So how do you go about that?
Usually, Rails, as far as I know, Rails doesn't do like that. Or you can in case of Rails, I don't think you can load both Rails. That's
right,
true.
that's
Yeah. But in a even in a major upgrade thing, there can be something. It will say okay, certain things are deprecated. That also you can remove. That also you can over a period of time you can remove. You don't have to even remove the deprecated ones and deploy now. What is mandatory to work for the immediate the current version, you can deploy that, and then the other ones you can remove over a period of time. Okay, so I think that's it what I have. Okay. Yeah.
What happens in tests also we put this flag?
In
the tests?
Tests, in my experience, I have not done that. Test always expects the new feature to be available. Okay.
Like I wrote something, but it was within a feature flag, and I have
In test environment, feature will be on. That's what I am trying to say.
But you will have a single test, see anything.
Yeah.
And what feature will be on there that?
So in the CI environment, it will be on.
All the features will be
on. Okay. So the tests also will run. But in case you want to make sure that with feature toggle off and with feature toggle on, you want to make sure that it works, then you can write tests like that.
You will have to write tests for both. In my experience, when we used rollout, we wrote features for both the sets.
We can do that.
Only for the one. If you have the
in your
features,
CI, you keep all the features on.
Yeah. In production, usually in production you turn it off, because you might need some more time to deploy it there. But staging it will be still on. That's my experience.
So shouldn't you actually test what is going into production?
So production you can have a kind of a smoke test or your acceptance test or a smoke test which can test with the production like environment and see whether it works. So that will be a
pre-prod or some kind of environment that we do the sanity testing around, and then we move to prod. And usually like this will be like a single deployment, like not as in Google or something where we commit to that we go to the prod. We will go to the pre-prod to the continuous deployment or something, and then we will have a button to manually click that one, so it will go to the prod.
Yeah, but in certain cases, if you want to make sure that okay, certain conflicting features, if you have that, write test for when it is off. This is how it should behave. You can write that test too. In that way, you can make sure that okay, in either case, even in where it is turned off, it is still working. So
we can load those test files only when the module is on, right? We should be able to do that.
That's also fine. But if you want to test certain behaviors, you may have to write tests, right? So.
And this thing will not work on poorly tested code basis.
Sorry.
On poorly tested code basis, if I don't have enough tests,
then I think it might be little. I mean, continuous integration itself may not make much sense in those kind of situation, because especially in a Ruby, what else in Java you can say okay whether it compiles, but in case of a Ruby case, what does it say? Nothing.
it only tells us that master is fine.
But if you don't have enough tests, then we may not get feedback. Yeah.
Can you describe what you mean? When, for instance, you're trying out features in a user interface, where you're trying to gauge what the users like or how they're responding to various features, not in the back end, but in the front end. When you're doing that, you may have a tree of toggle, you know, so what you're turning on and off. The dependencies of these feature toggles, how do you handle that? Even in the back end, you might have a dependency.
No, feature toggles are usually for user interfaces, because your migrations and other anything usually will go, because it's not, user doesn't see that. The idea is that disable certain users features for the users. So can you give me an example where you are talking about a tree thing?
In that Martin Fowler article, they actually talked about this as a degree of complexity, where you might be tempted to use too many toggles in your system because it is so easy to add them.
So on those kind of situations, I think if I recollect it correctly, you create the something that you were saying, like you create the toggle at the module level, enable the module at itself, rather than, so the moment you have a if else, that's a time for you to use certain patterns. So use, say, a factory pattern or something like that, or a template pattern to enable certain features or not. If you feel that for a specific thing you have to have a set of toggles, so then you restrict it to a certain module, and then load that module depending upon certain cases, then I think it will be taken care. But the idea is not, ideally you should have very minimal of toggles. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Hope it was useful. Oh, yeah. Any feedback? Any other questions? Yeah.
Actually, I have a very basic question.
Ah.
So actually, I don't know what is this toggle about. So generally, when we are doing something in the code, we comment it. Suppose we don't want some feature or something, we just comment it, and it will not be seen in the UI. So why do we need these toggles? These many concepts.
But what will happen if when you want to turn it on, okay, and there are a lot of dependencies. Commenting out code, how can you enable or disable depending upon an environment? Say I want certain feature in staging, I don't want it in production. How can you conditionally comment it out or uncomment it? That is not, unless you have a script or something, you may not be able to post it. So that's the reason, instead of manually doing, this is the way to do it.
Let's say you have a very user intensive project, right? Social app or something like that, and you wanted to first introduce a very crucial feature to one set of people to make sure, okay, the infrastructure is able to take it, nothing breaks, there is no too many 500s or there's any problem like that. What if you want to do that? Then you cannot do it just by commenting out or changing. You need a feature toggle so that if everything works, I just toggle maybe, in case of rollout, it's a cyclic change. Say I make a small change in cyclic, then it works for everybody. So it's so painless. If you want to do full push, then it's very painful. You have to pray and say, okay,
It works.
we need feature toggle.
So I have another basic question. So if, let's say, you're purchasing a product, so you have packages in them, right? You have package set A which has features 1 to 3, and next a premium level package which has more features. Does that revolve around this feature toggle?
So in that article, I've not tried that myself, but I've not used toggles for those kind of things. But in the article that I shared about multiple, he speaks about permission toggles, like when you are in app, you'll get but I still don't know, because that will not be a short living toggle. But I think rollout gives you a lot of, you have used rollout, right? Rollout gives you a lot of extensibility.
So in that case, it becomes a permanent.
But even ops toggles are like that, but keep it to very minimum.
Only the major features. Toggles.
Toggle, for example, it is a conditional toggle. So it's a toggle that is turned on automatically
in the feature
on a condition.
Yeah.
It's not being used by
Yes. In the yeah, that again depends on a certain condition. If the user has paid, then turn it on. It's not much different from A/B testing, right? That's also conditional on this feature for this particular kind of users. So
just one more question.
yeah, sure. No, that's okay. Yeah.
I'm still very, does everyone push to master?
Yes.
That's how you
Yes.
might do this.
Yeah.
So you, this continuous delivery or this deployment happens directly to production?
Deployment, we don't have we have staging. So the moment you commit, it automatically goes until staging.
Right. Then if it's okay, then you do a
Yeah, the production thing is in our case it is manual, but in case of Google it is auto. Yeah. So they don't have even. So you can watch that video. That will be very interesting. So they have very.
mistakes. I mean, how do you know if the test coverage is enough? How do you?
But the changes are so small.
Okay. Since they are so small.
They have code reviews, but that's also very fast. I don't know how. To be frank,